Welcome to the City of Bakersfield Planning Commission meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 10 a.m. The agenda for this meeting can be downloaded at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, Chair Daniel Cater.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to call to order the January 19th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Cater.
Here.
Vice Chair Bashir Tash.
Here.
Commissioner Biddle. Here. Commissioner Coman.
Here.
Commissioner Lomas. Here. Commissioner Neal. And Commissioner Wade.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for attending tonight's Planning Commission meeting. This commission provides an opportunity for public participation in the development process throughout the City of Bakersfield. The Planning Commission considers a wide variety of projects, including subdivision, maps, zone changes, general plan amendments, and much more. When applications are received, the City Planning Division analyzes the request. Planning staff will then present the facts about the project along with their recommendation to the Planning Commission, who will approve the item or make a recommendation as appropriate. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 3A, public statements.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the commission regarding items on tonight's agenda? Please note if you are here for non-consent public hearing item 6A, this is not the time to speak. You will be given an opportunity to speak when those items are called later in the meeting.
Agenda item 3B, non-agenda item public statements.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the commission regarding an item not listed on tonight's agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 4, consent calendar items.
Please note all matters listed under the consent items do not require a public hearing and will be enacted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of said items unless staff or a commissioner requests specific items be discussed and/or removed for separate action. May I get a motion approving the consent items?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Bashir Tash. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Biddle. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Neal absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 5, consent public hearings.
Now is the time for consent public hearing items. Please note if an item is not removed by a commissioner, staff, or member of the public, the commission will vote on all items in one motion without further comment. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the non-consent public hearing items. At this time, I will open all of the consent public hearing items. Does any member of the public wish to remove a consent public hearing item for separate consideration? Seeing no members of the public, does any commissioner or staff wish to remove a consent public hearing item? Seeing no commissioners, at this time, the consent public hearing items 5A through 5F are now closed. May I get a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on the consent public hearing items 5A through 5F, incorporating all staff memorandum and revised staff recommendation?
I'd like to make a motion to approve all items 5A through F.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bashir Tash. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Commissioner Neal absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 6,
I'm sorry, Chair Cater.
Yes.
The screen showed no vote for Commissioner Coleman. I did vote, but I was late. Okay, thank you.
Uh-oh.
Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
He did make the motion.
Thank you.
It's funny because I had just thought we were doing so well with digital voting today. My apologies for sending bad energy into the room. Yeah. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
agenda item 6, non-consent public hearings.
Now is the time for non-consent public hearing items. Before we begin, I'd like to explain how the hearing will be conducted. Staff will first give a report. Then those in favor of the project will be allowed to speak. Those in opposition to the project will be able to speak after all of those in favor have spoken. Each side will be given a 5-minute total time to provide rebuttal comments. Please note, individual speakers may ask questions during their statements, but the questions will not be answered until the public hearing on that item is closed. If you'd prefer, written comments may be given to the clerk, who will provide copies to the commission. Please be respectful of others participating in the process in the hearing by not repeating the remarks of previous speakers and presenting any new comments or thoughts in a clear and concise way. Mr. Johnson, would you please provide us your staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cater. Good evening, commissioners, members of the audience. This is Plan Commercial Development number 220320. It is what was formerly known as East Hills Mall and now commonly called City Lights Project. It is zoned C2 PCD, which is our regional commercial plan commercial development. With that PCD zone is why we are here tonight for your Commission's consideration. It has a general plan designation of mixed commercial. It is approximately a 36.5-acre site consisting of 4 parcels. The applicant, or I should say developer, is proposing over 346,000 square feet of a retail shopping center consisting of 14 major buildings located primarily along the northern and western boundary, and 8 restaurant pads and 2 multi-tenant pads along the southern boundary and in the middle of the site, and 1 outlier to the east. In 2018, this is what the site looked like, and that was also the last time that your commission considered development on this site. I believe out of this chamber, there's probably 4 individuals that were present at that time, and they are all sitting on the dais right now. Currently, this is what the site looks like. And with the overlay, this is what the site would look like as developed. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on the 2018 project that was in front of your commission. At that time, there was some concern and quite a bit of discussion on the ability to move pedestrians from one side of the project site to the other side. Of contention was that Mall View Road is a private road, and therefore sidewalks are not required per code on the road. However, when you have a public bus stop or transportation stop like the Get bus stop that's located there, there must be interconnection pathways ADA compliant throughout the site to the buildings. And this is reflective of the pathways that the 2018 plan was providing. There's a portion along Mall View Road in the circle. The request was not to install sidewalks there, in part because there was mature landscaping that would have to be removed if the sidewalk is installed. And it was noted that there was internal pathways just to the north along the buildings. Again, this area between 2 access points, drive access points, there was no sidewalk proposed. And again, mature landscaping. Same justification, you had a pathway just to the north. At the far western portion of the site, again, there was no sidewalk proposed along Mall View Road. And again, this was mature landscaping, and also because of the grade. The grade was very steep and wasn't sure if it was in ADA compliance. There was no internal pathway to this area, so your commission was concerned with the stairwell or stairway that was there. It was basically would be a stairway to nothing because there was no access once you went to the top of the stairway. After a lot of deliberation, city council advice and concessions from the developer, they decided, or they agreed to putting a sidewalk in, as you can see in the blue dotted line right there on the far western corner. Fast forward to today's plan, there's more internal pathways, and there's also additional project frontage along Mallview Road where they want to install some sidewalk, but there's still approximately 750 feet of frontage that would not include a sidewalk. To address where the stairwell is, the applicant is proposing, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner around pad 1, there'll be internal access all around pad 1, and it'll lead to the stairwell along with a proposed ramp that will come down onto the road. And this would be as an alternative to installing a sidewalk. A draft landscape plan was submitted for staff's review. There are some changes that still need to be made. So therefore, if your commission approves this request, staff has a recommended condition that a revised landscape plan be submitted so we can ensure compliance with the landscape ordinance. Additionally, elevations were provided. This is at the main entrance looking north towards the major buildings. And this is one of the elevations looking south towards pad 1. Some of the rear sides of the major buildings do not appear to comply with the retail standards that we have. So again, and that would be the sides facing 178. So again, there's a condition of approval that some additional dimensions be provided so we can ensure there is compliance with development standards when it comes to the facade and articulation. Staff is also recommending the amendment of condition 2B9. As it was originally proposed, it was to say that outside display of merchandise was prohibited, but that's not in compliance with the ordinance. The ordinance actually allows outside merchandise to be displayed as long as it's within a screened area, but that screened area cannot be part of the parking lot. So this condition is being recommended for revisions to comply with the municipal code. Additionally, recommending amendment to condition E1, and this is to remove the requirement for continuous sidewalks along Mallview Road. Again, it's a private road, and I'm going to discuss that here in a moment, but we were recommending that be removed, and also add in the building director, because some portions of a sidewalk are being proposed, to add in the building director, since it's a private road, the ability to make decisions on this. However, any decision made by your commission would trump a decision made by the Public Works or the building director. Discussing the frontage sidewalks, the east half already has existing sidewalks. The applicant is proposing some sidewalks just to the west of the main entrance. And again, as I previously noted, there's two areas that are circled there, about 750 feet, that would be without sidewalks. The proposed sidewalk area, as you can see, in 2018, there was landscaping. That has subsequently been removed. So the applicant is going to agree to put in sidewalks there. This is an area where the applicant has not demonstrated there will be sidewalks. But as you can see, the landscaping has, again, been removed from 2018, so I'm not sure the justification exists to not require a sidewalk in this area. Again, the far western landscaping has been removed, but the grade is still there. If this was a ministerial request and the applicant came in and asked for topographical exception to putting in a sidewalk in this area, that is probably something that would be approved ministerially. Based on the fact that they are providing internal circulation around pad 1. But it doesn't preclude you from requiring a sidewalk in this area also. One more area I think your commission should be considering is the path of travel and ease of travel from one point to the other point. Individuals getting off the bus stop, if they wanted to go to the western portion of the site, they would have to go around the main entrance, and you can see by the blue arrows that are tracking, that's the path of travel. I think it's safe to say that the closest point, or the shortest distance between 2 points is going to be straight across. So therefore, your commission may want to consider having a walkway or curb cuts there so there's a shorter path of travel. This project site is subject to several municipal requirements. Two of the main ones is the retail design standards. And those design standards are established to help mitigate unwanted design while encouraging developers to incorporate good community architecture that enhances the city's character and quality of life. And also the Planned Commercial Development Zone, or the PCD zone. And this zone is intended to provide for innovative design while providing adequate improvements and standards necessary to satisfy the requirements of the public health, safety, and general welfare. These standards shall be observed without unduly inhibiting the advantages of modern site planning. This zone, again, is not, though, to restrict commercial development. In considering this project, there are 3 items that your commission should take into account: that the proposed development is consistent with the general plan and objectives of the zoning ordinance. Does the proposed development constitute a commercial environment of sustained desirability and stability, and will it complement and harmonize with the character of the surrounding neighborhood? And does the proposed development justify exceptions from the normal application of the code? Public hearing notice did go out. We received no comments. It was also published in the local newspaper, and again, no comments were received on this project. Therefore, staff's recommendation that you approve the project subject to the recommended conditions of approval and amendment of condition 2B9 and 2E1. That completes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The public hearing on this item is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the project? If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Chairman Cater, Planning Commissioners, my name is Dwayne Keithley. I'm with Cushman & Wakefield Commercial Real Estate, representing the owner. I don't know about some of you, but I feel like I'm in the movie Groundhog Day, having been here before. For disclosure purposes, Michael Heslov and I did have conversations with Commissioners Biddle, Cater, Basher Dash, and Commissioner Wade. I'll keep my comments short and brief, as Planning Director Johnson has covered most of it. As you all know, in 1985, the mall was built by the Hahn Company. It was approximately 450,000 square feet of indoor retail. And at the time, it was general plan GC and zoned PCD, as he mentioned. Late in the 1990s, the 3 major tenants, who you might remember, Mervyn's, Gottschalk's, and Harris, all eventually failed, not because of Bakersfield, but company-wide. And as the 3 major tenants failed and closed, the balance of the mall followed. And as Mr. Johnson pointed out, in 2018, if you want to, he's actually already shown the slide, so we don't need to show it again. But a new plan of 350,000 feet approximately was approved. The zoning was upgraded to C2 PCD, which is what we have today. Fast forward to July of 2021, Michael Hesloff and Steve Zimmerman purchased the property from the owner, Save Mart Companies. They paid all cash for the property, and they have no debt on it. As requested by the city of Bakersfield, they were asked to raise the mall, and they tore it down completely immediately thereafter. I do want to point out that both Mr. Heslov and Mr. Zimmerman have extensive development experience, extensive retail experience, and they're very well capitalized to build this project. And then there's today's current plan. As you can see, it's also approximately 350,000. The plan includes department stores, soft good clothing retailers, a grocery store, food and entertainment users, just to name a few that you would expect in a center like this. And as most of you know, there's very little to no vacancy from retail in the Northeast. We have substantial interest. In fact, for the 350,000 feet we're proposing, we're already oversubscribed in interest from retailers and food users that want to be there. From a timing perspective, we've been asked, our plan is to have an opening hopefully in first quarter, second quarter of 2025. And finally, we've read the staff report. We're in agreement with it. We have no further comments, but we'll be available for questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the project? If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. All right. Seeing no additional speakers in favor, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the project? If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Josh Taylor, and tonight I am representing about 1,000 local skilled carpenters of Carpenters Local 743. And I'm here to speak tonight on agenda item 6A, the planned commercial development. Now, our organization here has a local state accredited apprenticeship program that teaches local residents the skills to build anything under the umbrella of carpentry, including most components of building construction that are not plumbing and electrical. That said, the carpenters that I represent rarely get the opportunity to build privately funded projects like these, like the one before you here tonight. The reasons our local skilled craftsmen so rarely get those opportunities to build projects like this include low bid practices that eliminate responsible contractors who pay area standard wages on all their projects from being awarded such work. Another reason that developments go without good labor standards like local hire enforcement and often lead to out-of-town or out-of-state workforces that local skilled workforces can't compete with. An example of this going on right now, a project that went through this planning commission, take 918 East Chester project, just a few blocks from here. One local framing contractor tells us that the low bid processes on that project took bids so low that none of the local contractors could compete, and the work is going to some low-rent, out-of-town framing company. Therefore, I ask the commissioners to delay moving forward on a recommendation to approve until such a time that the applicant or developer can demonstrate an enforceable commitment to local hire during the construction of the PCD. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the project? If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing no additional speakers in opposition, does any commissioner have questions at this time for the applicant or city staff? Please note, this is not the time to express any opinions on the matter, only a time to ask questions. Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair Cater. This question is for staff. Director Johnson, I didn't understand the note about the path of travel at the front driveway. Can you explain that to me a little better? Because I was struggling with that. This one here with the purple mark. So why wouldn't somebody just cross this driveway?
They would, or they could. And now that jaywalking is somewhat legal in California, but there is nothing showing that there's a crosswalk, I'll call it. There's no crosswalk there.
So that's not a controlled intersection right there, what you're saying?
There will be stop signs, but there's no traffic signal now.
I see. Is that something that can be readily fixed, or is it complicated?
No, I believe it can be readily fixed.
Okay. The next question I have is for the developer. I counted like 10 fast food pads in that project there. And I'm concerned about the two pads, pad number 10 and pad number 9, that are in the middle of the project, which are considered, they appear to be, it's hard to tell in this little sketch, but it appear to be fast food drive-throughs, and we've had a little bit of problem with fast food driveways in the middle of projects. I refer to California and Stockdale as the prime one, is that it affects all the rest of the businesses because you got people lined up to, get through these. So do you have any comments about pad number 10 and pad number 9?
Sure, Chair Cater, commissioners. Yes, we're aware of the same issues, and as are all of the major tenants who are lined up there too. You know, you've got In-N-Out Burger and Chick-fil-A and people like that who they have a large stacking. So what we have here today are placeholders, essentially, for potential tenants. We do have a few fast food tenants that are interested in the project, and we will have to provide adequate stacking, not just for you all, but also for the major tenants that align the back, so that things like California and Stockdale, where you've got Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out Burger, don't happen again. And not only do you not want it to happen, we don't want it to happen, and all the major tenants won't allow it to happen. So we're keenly aware of that. We've put drive-throughs in because, as all of you know, ever since COVID has happened, I don't care whether you're Dutch Brothers or Starbucks or El Pollo Loco or who you are. So many of the users, Chipotle now has a concept called Chipotlane because they need to have a drive-through there because the world has changed. And so they're not all fast foods. Some of them are like Paneras and Chipotles and coffees and tenants like that. So a project like this can only handle, you know, a burger operation or a chicken operation, one of each. So we do have drive-throughs there, as you noted, and they're there simply because so many tenants today, financial institutions, et cetera, have drive-through requirements. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Good,
you.
you bet.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Are there any other commissioner questions? Commissioner? I had a question for Mr. Johnson. There was some mention of private road standards as they relate to public road standards. And I was just curious of how, does it seem like kind of a blanket statement that could lead to a lot of questions? So Mallview Road being a private standard, you had mentioned no pedestrian access. So what are the access requirements for private roads if they don't follow the public road standards?
What I meant to mention then is there is no sidewalk required on the public. There's no public sidewalk required on a private road.
Okay.
And I want to make sure I understand your question clearly. There are.
Well, I guess my question, and this is everyone's favorite time where we ask questions and not opinions and try to state questions without giving opinions. And so essentially, Mallview Road is connecting multiple parcels. And so a private road to me alludes to circulation within a project site. And then therefore it makes sense that you would look at points of connection to the project site. A road such as Mallview Road that is connecting multiple projects that are not tied to one development plan, are you saying there's no pedestrian requirement for that configuration?
What I'm saying is that there must be ability to go from transportation to all the buildings within that development. So in this case, you can see there are 3 crosswalks that cross Mallview Road there. The crosswalk on Fashion Place does go down the east side of Fashion Place, but it does not go into, it goes down the east side, goes down the east side of Fashion Place all the way to Bernard. But if you look, it does not go into the Walmart area. There's no sidewalk that goes into the Walmart area. The sidewalk along New Market Way, that goes down the east side, and then halfway down it goes on both sides of New Market Way down to Bernard. You look at the crosswalk that would be on the far east side, which is near the Get bus stop, that actually goes into a curb. It goes in private property into a curb. So it would be impossible. You would actually have to traverse into a driveway.
Well, and I understand that the configuration that currently exists at this site. What I'm not quite sure is the designation of a private, because, for example, we have a lot of gated communities in our community that are private roads because they are not publicly accessible. Are the sidewalks that developers provide in those superfluous, or do we require access on roads regardless of their financial structure?
They follow our city standards.
Okay.
But again, this is already in existence, so it's not required to have it's not required, it's an option, if your commission so desires, to have a continuous sidewalk along Mallview Road.
I guess, and just not to belabor the point, but I mean, what we're looking at tonight is not the existing condition. I get if Walmart was here tonight representing how they currently operate, we would say this is what currently exists. We're looking at, I'm not giving an opinion, I'm just saying, as it relates to proposed development, which is the purpose of what the Planning Commission comes to discuss, do we hold new developments to city standards in relation to their development of private roads?
You may, yes.
But we may, but you may not? Is that?
Well, again, if the proposed sidewalk will have to meet city standards. A city standard, if this was a public street, would be to finish that sidewalk all the way down Mallview Road. Since it's not a public street, it's not a requirement. If they were to put it in, that sidewalk would need to meet city standards.
Understood. All right. I guess I kind of answered, but I think I'm belaboring a point. So I'm going to, yes, Commissioner Lomas has a question.
One short question. What's the speed limit on Mallview Road?
Is it? Oh,
We're looking it up. It's a local road.
Commissioner Wade noted it might be one of the site photos.
We have a street view here that we're looking at. If you can give us a moment. If you have another question, we can come back to that.
You can come back to it once we finish this. That's the only question I have, and you can come back to it.
Speed limit looks like it's 30 miles per hour.
All right. Looks like we have no additional commissioner questions at this time. So at this time, we'll move on to the rebuttal period. My apologies. I am on the wrong page of the script.
During the rebuttal period, can the clerk ask the tech support to come fix our computers again? Because when we go back to the agenda, we're locked out again.
Oh, yeah, we have two commissioners without portals. Oh, all of them? Oh, not, except for me. I can tell you everything you want to know about the project.
Mine works too. What'd you do?
What did, hello? Fantastic. Ms. King, do you recommend that we pause while we figure out this technical issue or move on to rebuttal?
I think we can move on to the rebuttal because you don't need to vote for the rebuttal.
Okay.
So.
Sounds good. All right. Well, at this time, we'll move on to the rebuttal period. As stated at the beginning of the meeting tonight, please note that the rebuttal period is 5 minutes total time for all speakers. As we begin with those in support of the project, we will begin the rebuttal period with those in support of the project. So is there anyone who wishes to speak? I'm sorry, someone's speaking to me on the phone. It's okay. Sorry, it's too quiet to hear, but it's quiet enough to hear. So I apologize. Yeah, I think they weren't even actually talking to me, so that made it more awkward. Sorry, back to the hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to provide a rebuttal on this item? If so, please prepare to step to the podium. Each side will only have 5 minutes total time, so if there's multiple speakers, I advise everyone coming to the front. So please make your comments succinctly without repeating the remarks of previous speakers to ensure that everyone wishing to provide rebuttal comments has the opportunity to do so. All right, and we will begin with those in favor of the project. Please note 5 minute total time. And Madam Clerk, would you please start the clock? And speaker, may you please state your name and please wait for us to get the clock up on the screen. Oh, you're working on it, okay. The glitch is moving through the room. My apologies. Oh. My apologies, speaker. Yeah, it'll just be just a minute. Oh, that's a little bit more. Okay. Please begin.
Chair Cater, Commissioners, Dwayne Keithley, Cushman and Wakefield. I'm actually one of the only people in this audience old enough to remember when the mall was built in 1985. I just want to speak because I was here in 1985 and 86. The city at the time decided to build this entire 106 acres as a private project, and they were all private roads. Looking back, that probably was a mistake, but it's the way it got developed. In 2016 to 2018, we actually met at the time with City Manager Alan Tandy and Jackie Kitchen to talk about the city taking over the roads. Public Works said they don't meet current standards, we won't take them. So when we came back to address the sidewalk issue, Commissioner Rudnick brought up the fact that we want to extend the sidewalk to the westerlymost boundary. Roger McIntosh at the time pointed out it was an 8% grade and wouldn't meet ADA standards. That's when we came up with where the sidewalk ends, enter into the property where it's level, then take it down to the west where there is currently a stairway. That's just the history of how we got here today and why we don't have sidewalks along Mallview Road along all of the properties. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers in the audience wishing to provide rebuttal comments in support of the project? If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, I will close the rebuttal period for those speakers in favor and provide a 5-minute rebuttal period for those speakers wishing to provide rebuttal comments in opposition to the project. Madam Clerk, would you restart the clock? And I will now open up for any speakers wishing to speak. Provide rebuttal comments in opposition to the project. If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Okay. Seeing no speakers in opposition during the rebuttal period, I will now close the public hearing on this item and return it to the Commission for comment and action. Commissioners? Sure. Commissioner Biddle.
Well, I wasn't around when this project first came about, but I've definitely been around to see the demise of the East Hills project. So to see somebody willing to invest in the east side of Bakersfield really gets me excited, and especially to bring this mixed-use aspect to that side of town. There's been a lot of new development, and I think this will fit in really nicely. I, too, would like to see less of the drive-in aspect of it and see a little bit more walkability. But seeing that there's going to be more grocery options and more things for our families to do on the east side of town is very exciting. So I'm interested to hear what my other commissioners have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Biddle. Next, Commissioner. Commissioner, have you requested? Okay. The request to speak seems to not. So just please let me know. Commissioner Wade.
All right. So as a fifth generation East Sider, I'm excited about this project. I have been, and it's constantly been a letdown because of, generally, I think, market forces. I think that in past years, not speaking of the last year or two, I think the city has not made it easy when they could have done things to incentivize it. There are even some times where I think our commission didn't we did what we could to get in the way of this being an easy project and easy approval. So something needs to get built here for the good of the city. I like what's been proposed, a small change to And adding a sidewalk seems to be an easy fix to things, but I'm good with the plan as it is, and I can't wait to see this thing get built.
Thank you, Commissioner Wade. Any other commissioner comments? The dialogue box is working again. Commissioner Coleman?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to see this project back in front of us. I was really disappointed when the last development project failed. I thought we had worked through it and we worked out all the issues that we had, and we had an agreement, and so it was sad to see that go. I'm glad to see a new developer with enthusiasm for it, maybe the ability to make it happen. I like the project in general. I would just like us to fix that sidewalk problem across the front. And I don't know about that purple line that goes all up around the building. I don't know why we can't just have a little crosswalk there to make that. That shouldn't be any significant expense to fix that. And yeah, I do have some concerns about all the restaurants, but you know, the market forces will take care of that. So I'm good with the project otherwise. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Lomez.
I've always liked the project, but the sidewalk's always been a problem for me, and it was the last time, and it remains one. A question that just came to mind, and I'm not remembering, maybe staff can help me. When there is a road, isn't there an ordinance somewhere or some sort of criteria that needs to be met if a road is so long that you have to implement some traffic calming measures? Am I remembering this right? Could you?
Yes, that's right.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, there it is. That's right, if it's over 1,000 feet long and a local street, but again, this is a private street, so I don't know how that would
No, I understand. But my
apply here.
point would be in that there's a rule like that for a reason, and that is for pedestrian safety. And private road, I don't even understand this whole private road thing. How do we throw pedestrian safety out the window because it's a private road? We still have to take responsibility. We're the body that's supposed to look at these things. So you've got a very long road. You've got a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit that nobody will go. And now the use is fast food, which has drive-through and much more movement of cars. So you're going to have people and cars moving, not going into a restaurant and sitting for a long time. Those cars are going to be moving all the time. And now we're going to have people walking. This is, with this map and all of these fast foods, I think it's even more imperative to implement sidewalks. And I'd like to hear more from staff on that crossing across that entrance. How would you handle that?
Now, for that crossing at Mallview Road, now, currently there's no, curb ramp there. But in order for like the path of travel, in order for them to cross the street, there would need to be a curb ramp installed on the west end of the entrance.
A curb ramp? Sorry, I don't know what that is.
How do I explain?
A curb cut where a wheelchair could get through?
Yeah, basically a curb cut, yeah.
Okay.
In order for the pedestrians to either cross the entrance.
Okay,
or
so
the crosswalk.
You have a ramp, a cut so that a wheelchair can go,
Yes.
and then painting a sidewalk doesn't seem that, a crosswalk doesn't seem that hard. Wouldn't that be?
That's just an option.
What other options would there be?
Well, the option would be, that's just an option that's on the table. Just in the, how do I say? There needs to be a curb ramp to be installed for the path of travel for a pedestrian to basically, for another way for the pedestrian to cross the street or access the other facilities in that area.
What would be your recommendation to get that pedestrian across that area safely?
The recommendation would be to install a curb ramp at the west end of the entrance. That would be an option, or that's the recommendation. But it also falls in line with the sidewalk concern as well.
So, and Mr. Johnson, so we as a body could ask for the sidewalk, the curb cut.
Commissioner Lomas, what we would do is we would look at it to make sure that there would be no safety issues on where we place that crosswalk going across that main entrance, whether that is at Mallview Road or whether that may be within the site, 50 feet or so where you would cross. We would just want to make sure that there'd be no queuing concerns or anything like that. But yeah, we can add a condition or revise condition E2 to require that there's a crosswalk closer to that so individuals don't have to go all the way up to the major buildings and then back down.
Thank you. I have another concern. So I'd look for that language. Dwayne said, Keebley, Mr. Keebley, said that, there was talk last time, and this part I vaguely remember, but I don't remember where everything landed, was the grade. Now, is there for the grade and ADA requirements, is there a problem there?
With the crosswalk at that area?
To add a crosswalk all the way down.
Oh, to add a crosswalk all the way down? The only area, in my observation, would be the far western area where there is probably, if I had to guess, about an 8-foot rise from road to the top of the pad. So what that would require, and again, I would almost defer to the engineer of record that's in the audience. What that would require is probably cutting back some of that land, installing a retaining wall to be able to install a sidewalk along Mallview Road there.
Well, if we didn't have a whole bunch of fast food restaurants, the whole length of where there aren't sidewalks, but there's going to be pedestrians moving and cars moving in that area. So I would hope that the commission supports that we require sidewalks the length of the property. I would hate to see someone get hurt, and especially we don't have jaywalking restrictions anymore, so pedestrians, I don't think we should expose them any more than they already are. I'll stop talking now.
Yeah, I was.
Commissioner Beshertish.
Thanks. I think about the marketplace, and I know that the outside of the marketplace does have sidewalks, and the entrance of this kind of reminds me of the marketplace because in order to get around it, you have to walk up, but there's a crosswalk there. But most of the entrances to all the stuff is going to be in from the inside, correct? Nothing is going to be on the backside. Okay, so I don't understand like I mean, forgive me, I don't understand the need for the sidewalks on the outside if no one's going to be on the outside. Because I've seen that steep road. I mean, I think putting a sidewalk there, in my opinion, is a tripping hazard. If you're not paying attention, you're just going to tumble down this. Because no one is. I grew up by the mall as a kid, and that back alley it was an asphalt road, and I mean, it was like, I don't know. I guess it's 2023 now, so it's different. But I don't know why anyone would want to walk on that. Even if there was a sidewalk, there's really no purpose to walk down that road. The only walking place you would want, if you went there, would be in the inside, right? And unless I'm missing something, I don't. The entrances are all on the inside. Like to participate in this development, you would have to be in the inside of the development, correct? Okay. I guess I don't really have any more questions then. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no additional commissioner comments, my request to speak is not working, so please make big dramatic hand gestures if you wish to speak. Seeing no additional commissioners. So So I have a general question for staff that will probably deviate into opinion, and so that's why I kind of held it. I think as comes up a lot with this project, you know, we've seen a lot of development in the west part of Bakersfield, and the west part of Bakersfield is very easy because it's very flat. So we will never meet an ADA, like a road will never meet an ADA issue because we pretty much, you know, I think as an architect, I'm working on a project right now that 300 feet apart has 2 inches of grade difference. And so that being said, moving into the Northeast, that is not the case. California is not a flat community. And so the belief that just because topography exists, we don't have to provide sidewalks seems very nonsensical as far as, I mean, because that would preclude any sidewalk connection to BC, that would, City in the Hills, you know, all of these communities we're seeing that involve topography have sidewalks that exceed ADA based to natural grade. And so I would just be curious from a staff perspective, I feel like that can't be the answer because there are communities in California that have more than 8% grade naturally that still provide pedestrian sidewalks. And so I'd just be curious if we could talk about that just for a minute because I feel like that's not wholly the answer here. Granted, it all ties together and we're looking at this project tonight, not all of, but I'd just be curious because I feel like in 2018 that same conversation came up and it just that can't be right. So I would love to know Public Works, a little bit more information about that.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 options. You can either rely on the internal pathways to access that far west corner, or you can require a sidewalk along Mallview Road.
Well, and I should be more specific. Not this, because I understand that the way, from a building perspective, owners are required to provide an accessible path from a public right-of-way within their development. I'm speaking more generally about roads that have topography and the carte blanche statement that because they're sloped, they don't have to have sidewalks. It's two issues. I completely like the diagram that the applicant provided indicates that there are accessible routes through their project, and that's not in question. Question is more this kind of general statement that if a road is steep, all pedestrian accommodations go out the window.
Well, if I said that, I didn't mean to say it that way. I mean, I would just even again look at Fashion Place and New Market Way. They all have grades that go down from Mallview Road down to Bernard Street, and they all have sidewalks on, or both of those have sidewalks on them. So to say that a sidewalk is not feasible here, I would say is not true. A sidewalk is feasible. However, the applicant has opted for an alternative to use at grade, pad grade, and use internal pathways to transport people, not transport, but you know, have the flow of people go.
Yeah, through the center.
Through the center.
Through the front.
Maybe that's
frontage.
a marketing tactic to get
Mhm.
people into the center. Maybe it's a financial concern.
Well, because when we saw the project last in 2018, my concern was that there was no pedestrian connection to the west part of the site, and I think the applicant, with their accommodation of a ramp and stairs, kind of provides a realistic linkage to the sidewalk that exists at the west end. What I was a little surprised about tonight, you know, I had the opportunity to meet with the developer earlier in the week, and I was not aware that at the access points, vehicular access points to the project, it was not proposed that there would be a curb cut and a crossing at the street. And to me, if you're providing a sidewalk on one side of a curb cut and on the other side of a curb cut and not providing a wheelchair curb, doesn't that seem like an equity issue? I mean, and then without striping, aren't you just basically, because California law, jaywalking, it's an inferred crosswalk because it is 2 sidewalks meeting. I mean, aren't we setting up ourselves for a dangerous situation by just making drivers unaware that people can cross there? And it doesn't seem like it's a hardship. It just seems like an oversight that it's not in the plan.
Well, as proposed, there is no curb cuts along that main entrance. Those sidewalks will bend around and follow the entry in, and then you can take your pathway
Even
out.
when there's a sidewalk on the east and a sidewalk on the west?
Well, there is a sidewalk on the east, but there is no sidewalk on the west. But
Let me get more specific, because I'm sorry, because it's a very big project. So I'm discussing more, once you get east of pad 3, like when you're at pad 4, when you're at pad 5, when you're at pad 6, pad 7. So the intersection between, for lack of a better term, large parking lot in front of Major 1 and large parking lot in front of pad 8, you have 2 sidewalks that meet the intersection, but it sounds like from this conversation there is no curb cut to connect those sidewalks.
if I could get tech services in the back to bring up my screen, I can zoom in on the site plan. That way it'd be
Yeah.
easier for everybody to see.
That'd be great. I wish we had a grab control of your screen command so we could. Yeah. Instead of just pointing at a large, yeah. So Mr. Johnson, looking at, yeah, that example. So you have proposed, wait.
There's no sidewalk
So
on.
if you pan over to pad 5 and 6, that intersection. So right where it says street pylon sign number 2, you're showing a sidewalk coming up the west side. Wrapping around pad 6 food, you're showing a sidewalk wrapping around. Your presentation indicated at those intersections, there would not be a curb cut and a direct connection between the 2 sidewalks that are being proposed. Is that correct?
That's what's shown on this plan. That is correct.
To me, I mean, I feel like that is not a hardship or a site topography. That is a simple oversight, because I don't know why there wouldn't be. I mean, I think to you, the circulation diagram that you showed where the purple path had to go up the street, around the street, down the street,
Right.
to avoid a city standard detail that is pretty straightforward. I think that is more of my concern than climbing the ambitious hillside of towering pad 1. It's just when, because to me, when infrastructure exists but doesn't connect, I feel like that is something that to me doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, and that's why I brought it to your commission's attention during my presentation, is that you should want to consider installing something so they can go straight across. Or if you look what's in between pad 3 and 4, you can see it's not at Mallview Road, it's in, 100 feet. And maybe that's a safety issue or whatnot. That's why I'm saying you may want to consider either a curb cut and connect those sidewalks at Mallview Road, or come in a little bit. And again, we could work with the developer and Public Works and building to make sure that there's no safety concern. And if we have to come in 100 feet, maybe we come in 100 feet and make that crosswalk across there, rather than having them go all the way up and all the way down, because likely nobody's going to do that unless they have an intention to go up to one of the major buildings to shop.
I mean, referencing Riverwalk, Marketplace, other lifestyle centers, but they interact with public streets, not private streets. The sidewalk that exists on Ming in front of the grand entrance into the Marketplace still has a pedestrian crossing at the street. And I don't see how putting pedestrians 75 feet back from the corner, so a car is turning without decelerating to then realize there's somebody crossing the street, is any safer than just providing what the city normally provides, which is connectivity between 2 sidewalks on each side of the street. So that would be, I mean, that would be my, I mean, to me, that's the, because I agree with Commissioner Wade, Commissioner Biddle. I think the plan is very consistent with what we've seen and moved through in 2018. I think providing opportunities for new experiences and new retailers on the east side is a great service to that quadrant of the city. And it just, to me, that seems like a oversight that is easily addressed. I think to Commissioner Lomas's comment, to me personally, so that's the intersections to the, let's call them the eastern intersections. And that, I would like to see that as a condition, that those have curb cuts and that they link, because I don't think it's anything different than what we do in our standard practice. So that would be the entrance to what leads to pad 8, and then the entrance between pad 5 and 6. Now, if we move west to the site and we come up to that pad 3, pad 4 intersection, I was curious because the justification of no sidewalk between pad 2 and pad 3 was landscaping that no longer exists. And so I'm curious why that a sidewalk was not incorporated, because it seems like the hardship doesn't exist anymore between pad 2 and 1. I completely understand the concept of pad 1 and how there is a very character-defining topography change at that location. And I think the accommodation of what appears to be, a wide pedestrian access around the project to a ramp, to a staircase, seems like an accommodation for a pretty dramatic site feature. Pad 2 and 3, I just don't see why it's still a hardship, because if we go to the image of that, which was very helpful to have the images, by the way, the hardship in 2018 was the landscape that was attempting to be preserved, and the landscape's not there anymore. So I was curious why the hardship, what the hardship is for 2 and 3.
So to answer a couple of your questions, the existing sidewalk that's there right now, like on the very eastern portion, there's a condition. If the curb cut's not in, there's a condition that requires that those be curb cut so it connects, because that's an existing sidewalk all the way down to the main entrance.
Just to 6?
Just to pad 6.
Okay.
We can have a condition that connects pad 6 to pad 5, I'll say, right at Mallview Road. But I would like to note that this is a little bit different than Marketplace at Ming Avenue. Ming Avenue is a divided highway. I don't want to call it a highway, but it's a divided road. And then where you can cross, a lot of times there is a traffic signal at those 6 sections. So this is a little bit different. I don't see it unreasonable to put it there. I was just saying I would like to make sure that Public Works doesn't have any problem with queuing or anything, that there would be a safety issue with putting it right on Mallview Road. I think it's doable, and we can add that condition. Between pads 4 and 5, you can see they're adding a sidewalk there. Between pads 2 and 3, they are not providing a sidewalk. And again, that's why I brought it to your commission's attention. That is fairly level. If your commission wants to require a sidewalk, you could. I don't see a great issue with that. I see more of the great issue, which would be the south side of pad 1.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're providing that internal pathway. They're also adding a proposed ramp with that sidewalk, or excuse me, with the stairwell or stairs.
Yeah, I think the ramp and the stair, I think it does a good nod to getting people into the project.
So if your commission wants to add a condition to require a sidewalk or along Mallview Road for pad 2 or 3, that is a motion that can be made.
I guess I would be, as the chair, I typically don't make the motion, so I would say that I would highly advocate that we make that connection that is already there between pad 5 and 6. I would be open to hearing other commissioners' perspective on the value of pad 2 and 3. Yes, and then I'm like 2 minutes before. And then pad 1, I mean, I think, again, the trees are no longer, the vegetation's no longer there. Grading work could be done, but I think, in my opinion, the accommodation of a ramp and a stair and a plaza that kind of introduces a pedestrian entrance to that west suffices for me. And then I would just, in closing, before I hear commissioner statements, just, I think a little bit to Commissioner Bashir-Tesh's, I just think if we made drivers drive like we make pedestrians walk in Bakersfield, we would all be crazy, because pedestrian connectivity paths that require you to dodge a couple drive-through lanes, go next to a trash enclosure, cross the street, go across the street. You're basically either making people into criminals by having them do a Frogger dash across the fire lane that's unmarked, or adding 4 times the length to their walk on a 110-degree day. And so, if you had to go east on Ming to go west on Ming, you would be furious. And I think that that's what we make pedestrians do. And so with that, I would love to see curb cuts and crossing at the pad 5-6 sidewalk connection, and would be open to the commissioner's thoughts on extending the sidewalk behind, or along Mallview Road between pad 2 and 3, given the relatively level grade. Commissioner Lummis.
And Commissioner,
Sorry, Commissioner.
go ahead.
I think he was first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Wade.
Just to restate part of my opinion and maybe state an additional one, I would vote yes on this as is. However, I think it's reasonable to talk about what's between 5 and 6. And I think you had a slide, Director, that implied a possible correction to that. There was the blue arrows. I think there was a suggestion. I think that's reasonable. The sidewalk between pad 2 and 3, for the 3 pedestrians a year that are going to use it, I don't know that it's necessary. I accept the point. I think it's a valid point that we shouldn't expect pedestrians. Your point about pedestrians and cars and the different ways that we provide them access. I don't think anyone's going to use this sidewalk. And if we're talking about a project that hasn't been built in the past because market forces didn't dictate it was worth it with the cost, this thing hasn't gotten built for so long, to keep putting costs on the developer that aren't going to benefit almost no one, I don't see the point. However, between pad 2 and 3, if it is in fact flat, and if they've ripped out all the landscaping, and if they don't have to build a retaining wall in order to pour a sidewalk, that's not a high barrier. So, I would accept that compromise also. I'm glad we're not talking about making them build a retaining wall outside of pad 1. I think that would be unnecessary.
Thank you, Commissioner Wade. Commissioner Lummis.
Just to make one observation, in that sometimes we look at projects as a driver and not as a pedestrian, to speak to your point. And the people that I'm talking about are the people that come on that bus, at that bus stop. And if they're going to be they're not the drivers, and they would be getting off of that bus, and they're not going to enter that parking lot to go to pad 2. They're going to be walking along that sidewalk. They're not going to enter and go in and out of parking. They're going to go the shortest distance, as you said, and when it's 110 degrees. They're the ones that are going to use that sidewalk, the people that are going to be visiting those fast food restaurants. And if Chick-fil-A is down at pad 2, I'd like to get them there safely. So I would like to support the sidewalk between pads 2 and 3, especially since the landscape's gone.
Thank you. Commissioner Wade. Sorry. Commissioner Coleman.
I know we look alike, but it's okay.
That's why you always use the request to speak. Yeah.
Thank you. I had a question for staff. If this was a city road, wouldn't we require the sidewalk?
Yes,
They would have to
would.
have a sidewalk all the way down there, wouldn't it?
Yes, we would.
If it was a city road. And then what is the parcel to the west of this? I know there's an elevation change there, but what is that parcel to the west of that zoned? I'm sorry if I didn't mean to create trouble, but my point is that, if we're going to then develop another parcel that's going to be west of there, then we're going to have a continuity problem if we don't make the right choices now.
It's vacant land that's zoned C2 PCD, same as this site.
And then the last question I have is regarding the traffic flow in and out of there, the car traffic flow. If that was a city street, wouldn't we have a requirement for some traffic lights or some traffic control, or what would be the requirement? Because you got 3 or 4 driveways with 3 or 4 different proposed fast food restaurants driving in and out. And so would there be some different requirement if it was a city street?
Well, it depends. If it was on a major road like Ming, then it would just be right in, right out. But here it's a local street, so you would have to check if it's warranted for a signal or
I'm not
always
asking for
stop.
one, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no.
I'm just saying, yeah, so,
Yeah, it might need an always stop or probably not a signal, because since it's a local street.
I would also add to that that the previous environmental document, the traffic study, was provided for development that was larger than what's being proposed right now, and it didn't warrant a traffic signal or a four-way stop.
okay, thank you for clarifying that, I appreciate it. So I'll get back to what I said before, is that I like the project. In deference to Commissioner Wade, you know, we didn't ask for some of the things that we requested in the west as far as fencing and other preservation of land that's not developed, those kind of things, because I think it is important that we get a project built out here and not go through this again in 18 months and have to review it. So I like it. I think we're close to working out something here that I think the developer's nodding his head. You can probably live with some of this stuff. We're not asking for too much. So I'd be interested in somebody's motion.
May I have a motion?
If I could clarify, well, I'll wait for the
Always.
motion, and then if I need to clarify, I will. I'll wait for the motion first.
I would ask for your clarification because you had.
There's a couple other things you asked.
Yeah, we talked about, wait a minute. Wait a minute, I see Cassie look like she's got to say something. Yeah. Okay, if you could, you're getting the drift of what we're looking for.
I am, but I'm also getting mixed signals on
Okay,
the
well,
sidewalk.
All right, for what I would like, and I will make the motion, and you'll help me with the language, in that the pad between 2 and 3, and then I'm going to ask you to clarify the language on that part. I'm going to get some help here.
It would be a terminology question for Public Works. What would be the best way to these would be classified as drive aisles into the project? Like the project entrances between 5 and 6?
Driveways.
3 and 4. Drive lanes?
Driveways.
Driveways, okay.
Driveways.
So, so I guess would it make sense, Ms. King, something to the effect of curb cuts with per ADA and city standards at all sidewalk intersections to drive ways into the project?
We already have a condition that speaks to that. It's a developer shall construct standard accessible ramps at the existing driveways according to adopted city standards.
And new drive. You said existing.
The driveways are existing, but yeah, you can
okay.
add the.
So that connection was
sidewalks.
already going to happen? Is that? We just talked about something for 30 minutes. It didn't even happen?
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't shown on the plan,
Yeah.
but
okay.
Yeah, Chair Kater, let me clarify.
I apologize to everyone and their
site
dinner
plan-
plans. Yeah.
This is why it's important. This is why it's important that site plans are near final stage, so that way you're reviewing, something that is being proposed. So right now it's not being proposed. We can clarify condition 2E2 that she was just talking, that will require that along the main entrance. So we can modify, we can amend
main
that
entrance
condition.
or all entrances? I think
Well,
there's a
it's
distinction.
already required along the other entrances to the east. We can require it along that entrance.
Well, wouldn't it be all entrances except for between
Now,
pad 1 and 2?
that depends if you're going to have a sidewalk between pads 2 and 3, because right now there's no sidewalk, so there would be no need for a curb cut.
No, it's just adding this one. Between 3 and 4. It
And
would
then,
just add
and then
that.
this one's already...
They've already got that condition, and that would just add this one.
Okay. It just seemed like it wasn't there for a while, and so if we could just make sure the language reflects that will be provided at all driveways, and then...
It will.
Commissioner Lemus, I think that's where you were asking me to clarify. Right? Okay. I will defer back to you then.
Those are the two conditions that we're trying to tighten up. I don't think there's anything else that. Oh, and then
Correct.
you had yours.
So we
That's
will have
2B9.
amendments to conditions 2B 2B9, 2E1, 2E2. Okay, now I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Is the motion to include additional sidewalk between pads 2 and 3?
Yes.
So that would then further, what I would further do then is revise condition E1 to potentially says, where it says now continuous sidewalk is required along Mallview Road. We had proposed that for deletion. We can put a sidewalk is required, also required between pads 2 and 3 along Mallview Road.
Yes.
That'll be your motion?
Yes. And then at the driveways, you've got that, which condition was, do we have a separate condition for the driveways?
Right, we will modify condition E2 to then also include between pads 3 and 4, since you're going to add a sidewalk along Mallview Road.
Right. And then 5 and 6, how is that the driveway between 5 and 6?
That will also have the curb cut.
Perfect. That's what I would like.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
Is the commission clear on that, or would you like me to rephrase that?
So it appears we have a.
So the motion does include a sidewalk. Commissioner Lomas' motion does
Yes.
include a sidewalk. Thank you.
Only between 2 and 3, because 1 is
Correct.
too hard.
I understand.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Lummis. I believe we have a second from
I'll second that.
Commissioner Biddle. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with revisions of 2B9, 2E1, and 2E2, and with Commissioner Neal absent.
Commissioner Lim, that it's been mitigated? Yes. Commissioner Lummis would like to add a comment on the
Oh, I
last
just wanted to clarify that, just, the pad 1 has been mitigated. It's not that we didn't take care of it, it's already been mitigated and taken care of,
via ramp and stairs?
the ramp and stairs.
Yep. Right.
Yes.
We close the hearing. Just, all right.
If I
Okay.
could, though, read the appeal on this.
Oh, yes, please do.
So decisions of the commission are subject to appeal by any person that believes they are adversely affected. The appeal must be filed in writing within 10 days from the date of the commission's decision. The appeal must be addressed to the city council and include the appellant's interest in or relationship to the project, identify the decision appealed, and address facts and reasons why the commission's decision should not be upheld. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 7, communications.
Does staff have any communication items?
I do, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next planning commission meeting will be February 2nd. I also like to put Wednesday, April 26th on your radar. We will be having a city council workshop on the housing element update and report on new housing laws. We really need your commission's participation in that. We are working out the details on how we want to incorporate the commission and the council together. But please, there'll be additional emails to follow with information. But again, April 26th, that's a Wednesday.
You don't have any times yet for that?
I don't have time for the workshop. It'll either be 5:15 or 3:30.
Sorry, I'm adding it to my calendar. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 8, commission comments.
Does any commissioner have any comments?
I want to congratulate Commissioner Wade for a brand new beautiful baby. Congratulations. Yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations. All right, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 9, adjournment.
This meeting is adjourned at 6:49. Have a great evening.